Howdy, and welcome to my top 10 games of all time. This is a video every gaming YouTuber does eventually, right? I just thought it would be kind of fun to sit down and list my favorite games of all time. Because, well, you see, why not? Now, the games I'm going to be listing will be my personal favorite games of all time. Keyword is personal. Me, myself, and my own opinion. Every person in the world is going to have a different list, and hey man, that is perfectly fine. Now before we hop into it, I'm going to go ahead and just give a few quick notes about it really fast. I am only human, so there are some fantastic games that I'm positive I would love, but I just haven't played them, so obviously I can't include them. Like every Final Fantasy game, which I'm working on fixing right now, and Oblivion, which I'm working on fixing right now, etc, etc, etc. So let's go ahead and hop on into number 10. Something that I don't think I have ever talked about on this channel is my undying love for horror of any kind. I mean, if you have a keen eye, you probably noticed all my Junji Ito manga back here. I love horror in any form, really. Heck, The Thing by John Carpenter is probably my favorite movie of all time, so yeah. And there is one game that I think captures horror better than most other attempts, that being Resident Evil. In particular, I mean the PS4 HD remaster of the GameCube remake of the original PlayStation 1 game. Yeah. This game has an incredible, almost unrivaled sense of atmosphere and unease. The original game was basically the start of the survival horror genre as we know it, and it feels like it hasn't even been passed yet. Some games surpass it in different ways, like Silent Hill with the more psychological aspect of it, but Resident Evil stands in a hill all its own. Especially the remake I'm talking about, which fixed a few small issues that made the game so much weirder in the past, and it just makes it even better for it. Walking through the halls of the Spencer Mansion gives me the overwhelming feeling of claustrophobia and always makes me tense up. It forces your mind to think that around any corner could be a horrifying monster. Then you're forced to venture even deeper into the unknown, and you're slowly uncovering the truth of this weird outbreak, and it makes you really feel like you stumbled into the middle of a true nightmare. It's absolutely incredible. And a quick note on the graphics, they hold up so good. Some of the shots still leave me in awe even now. This game came out for GameCube. I know this is an HD remaster, but oh my gosh, this is so unbelievably gorgeous. I feel like I could talk about this game for literal hours, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on. But if you're a fan of horror and you somehow haven't played this game, do yourself a favor. I am what most people on the internet refer to as a weeb. As a kid who grew up in the late 90s, and also a kid who was interested in those weird Japanese punchy cartoons my dad watched, inevitably, I fell right into the fandom of Dragon Ball Z. Me and my brother quickly turned into fanboys of the series, and we got every game we could, no joke. The ones on the screens are the games I remember having as a kid. And as I've stated in a previous video, the fighting game genre is one of, if not my favorite genre in gaming. So what happens when you take an amazing fighting game and put it in the world of a late 90s kid's dream? You get number 9 on my top 10 list. Dragon Ball FighterZ, that is what it's called, it isn't FighterZ, I promise, is everything a fan of this series could want in a game. Absolutely incredible, deep gameplay with unbelievable graphics and an ignorant amount of fan service. I have played so much online in this game, it's ridiculous. I've always been a fan of Marvel vs. Capcom, but Dragon Ball game, with those games' gameplay, was bound to hold a special place in my heart. And with the announcement of Master Roshi, it's safe to say asking for more would just be greedy at this point. Making a team of my favorite characters and seeing the breathtaking animation fills me with the feeling of being a kid again. Like the times me and my brother would jump on the trampoline and pretend we were Super Saiyans. This game fulfills that and even more, man. Arc System Works outdid themselves with this game, and I cannot wait for Guilty Gear Strive. I know I probably won't like it near as much as this because Dragon Ball, but I'm still so excited, man. Alright, this next entry kind of spoils another entry farther on the list, but what can you do, right? Borderlands 3 has to be my most anticipated game of all time. I literally refused to watch a single video about the game, not even the trailers, because I was that hyped for it. I didn't even know the main playable characters' names before it came out. Now this is a game I have some issues with, such as the villains and some story beats, and I will admit, in my video I made about it, I did geek out and ignore some of those issues. But still, Borderlands 3 was more of the incredible gameplay and humor I fell in love with in 2. Now obviously, I do not think 3 is better than 2. But just entering the world of Borderlands again after so many years is a feeling I will never forget. Now I haven't played any of the DLCs for it yet, because the last DLC for it, the one about Krieg, is going to release soon, and I plan on marathoning them all and then making a video about a roundup of them. So I'm super excited to jump back into the world to do that video, and to of course experience the DLC. Needless to say, I absolutely love this game, and it filled a hole that was left after the last Borderlands 2 DLC came out. I honestly believe the gameplay in 3 is some of the most fun I've had playing a game in maybe ever. I adore the gameplay so much, man. It adds to everything 2 did in so much great ways. How about another fighting game on a YouTube channel almost exclusively about RPGs? Mortal Kombat X. Now, don't get me wrong, I've played the crap out of Mortal Kombat 11, but honestly, I think Mortal Kombat X's gameplay is just absolutely addicting like crack. When you come back to X after playing 11, it feels like every character is on speed, man. This game is so much faster, and I absolutely adore it for that fact alone. Now 11 does feel more balanced and a lot more like an esports game, but X is more of an arcade, random chaos, which I find funner. But also, this game has the sentimental value, if you know what I mean. In high school, I basically had only one real friend, and he came over basically every single weekend because he didn't go to my school. And take a guess what game we played for literal years, every single day, almost exclusively. He would play basically just exclusively Kung Jin and Predator, and I would play Kano and Liu Kang. And dude, this game got me through so many hard years, just sitting down and spending hours playing against each other non-stop. It was that addicting for me and him. As an enormous RPG fan, me and most others hold one series pretty high up with the high echelon of great games, that being the Fallout franchise. But in my opinion, there is one Fallout game that just soars far above all the others in every way imaginable. And it isn't even made by Bethesda. Of course, I mean Fallout New Vegas. This game, above all the others, has a real sense of choice and consequence. 3 didn't really hook me too much to begin with, so it's safe to say that New Vegas was basically my intro into the series. New Vegas itself is a place that has an absolutely incredible design. To be honest, desert areas are easily my least favorite settings in video games. That is one of the main reasons I still haven't been able to beat Wasteland 2. And I love that game, I just hate deserts. But New Vegas gets away with it somehow. From unique teammates to fun stories, all the way up to the incredible gameplay. I also love the fact that your character is just a random courier who got shot in the head and found his way into a Skynet crazy world, man. I hold New Vegas so high, as do most people who have played the game or heck even heard of it. Obsidian, you done good. Another series that I have an unbelievably high amount of nostalgia for is the Crash Bandicoot series. Heck, I would go as far as to say the original trilogy was probably the first games I ever played. Can't really remember that far back, but my dad had those games since before I was born basically, and I remember playing the crap out of them. Once again, following the idea that as a kid this meant a lot to me, I played these games to death, man. Then when they remade them, of course I got it, and it hammered home the fact that these games aren't just holding on nostalgia. They are truly incredible. This may be cheating because I am putting all 3 of the original trilogy here because I honestly can't pick my favorite. Tight platforming with a great challenge. It also helps that these games have some of the best soundtracks in platforming games, I swear. With a great mix of standard levels and unique fun stages like the escape levels or the vehicle levels, they're all super fun, and I cannot express enough how excited I am for Crash 4. Heck, I'm probably gonna even break my own mold and make a video that's just completely off the walls about Crash 4. because I'm super excited. Growing up, I owned tons of Crash games. Some of the racing games, all kinds of them, you know. But the original trilogy is still easily the best one. Dark Cloud is an RPG most people do not know about. But my friend, do yourself a favor and play Dark Cloud. On my PS2, I would sit for hours playing this game. But as the years went on, I kind of forgot about it. But then out of nowhere, they released it on the PlayStation 4 for only $15. I decided to get it for, why not? And to see if it was as good as I remember it being as a kid. It was mainly for a nostalgia trip. But it was even better than I ever remembered it being. No joke. Plot-wise, simply put, a genie destroys your town and many other towns all across the world. A mystical being blesses you with the ability to rebuild the towns and basically resurrect all the people who had died from him. So you must venture into dungeons, forests, etc. to rebuild this destroyed world. The citizens all have preferences about where they want to live, so you can accommodate for their needs and get crazy rewards for it. You will also gain allies as you go, most of which are fantastic, and they all play differently and have unique things that none of the other characters can do. Man, for a PS2 game, this game has some of the best technology that impresses me even now. I mean, you can place down a building in the build mode, and with no loading screens, I can choose anywhere I want to plop down, and boop, right there, no loading at all. Move the buildings anywhere, it's like a Lego board, it's great. It's seamless and incredibly impressive for the year it came out in. I plan on making a full video on this game at some point in the future, so I'll discuss it more then. I also know that Dark Cloud 2, the sequel to the first game, is loved by fans more than the first one, but honestly, I could never get into it. I do plan on changing that and playing a lot more of it and even beating it. But I will say the first game has a darker, more serious tone, and I always enjoyed that more than the anime poppy style of the second game. The next one is obvious. You all seen it coming. Rune Factory 4. Don't leave, I'll explain. Or I guess Rune Factory 4 Special for Switch. The original came out on the 3DS, but I've played both to death. If this list had a curveball, this is surely it. How could I possibly put this above Fallout New Vegas? Well, first off, this is my list, so I can do whatever I want. Also, this game does for me what Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon does for a lot of other people. It's my chill game. A game that relaxes me to the core and fills me with a feeling of comfort. That sounds really weird, I know, but let me explain the game a little bit. This game is a lot like Harvest Moon. You have a farm that you tend to, there are villagers to befriend or even marry eventually. You can have children, etc, etc, etc. But this game adds a few things that makes it work so much better for me. First off, anime. Next, secondly, this game does have an RPG combat-like experience. It is very simple, but it's addicting. It's super fast-paced and doesn't outstay its welcome, which I do adore. It feels like an arcade game and I like it. And lastly, the characters and writing is fantastic. I found myself loving basically every character because the writing is pulled straight from some corny anime. I adore it for this stupid thing, man. It's so cheesy. I also plan on making a full-length video about this game as well. It's not going to fit in at all on my channel, but that's a video that I personally want to make for myself. The reason is because a game like this is chock full of stuff to do and it's chock full of content that I cannot even come close to covering even half of it in just a top 10 segment. Skyrim. That didn't surprise anybody. Well, it honestly might have surprised you a little bit, seeing as that it's number 2 and not number 1. You might know what number 1 is because I hinted at it earlier. But let's talk about Skyrim right now. And by that, I mean, what else can I say? I've made a video about everything Skyrim has to offer, even down to the freaking haircuts, man. This game is a masterpiece. The world is as captivating as they come, and the combat feels great. The side quests are so fleshed out that some are equally as good as the main campaign. And no matter how many times I play through it, I'm always discovering new things. This game has easily earned its way this high on mine and probably many of your lists. I would love to sit here and talk more about it, but I've already done that in all of these. So to save your time and my time, let's move on to number 1. But before I hop into number 1, I need to quickly mention some honorable mentions. Don't worry, I'll make it quick. These are just some games that almost made it onto the list, but I felt I had to highlight them in some way because they're still some of my favorite games. Fire Emblem Awakening. Yes, I have played Fates and I have played Three Houses. I just enjoy Awakening more. World of Warcraft, because I love MMOs. It has issues, yeah, but it's a game that I played the crap out of with my dad. XCOM 2. Basically the top tier of tactical strategy games. Little Big Planet 2. As a young, creative kid, this game let me go wild with my imagination. Mass Effect 2. It's the best Mass Effect game, so it's pretty good. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. My favorite Pokemon game. Now let's go ahead and move on to number 1. Borderlands 2 is my favorite game of all time. And it's hard to really summarize why that is in just a part of a video. I would never have even started YouTube if it wasn't for this game. Borderlands 2 is a masterpiece. It's the first video I ever made. It's dated and honestly it's not that great. Way over edited and a lot of really cheesy writing, but I loved the game so much I knew I wanted to express that in a public way. But most of you probably don't know this, but that's not the only video I made about Borderlands 2. In the video titled, "What is that game for you?" I expressed why I love Borderlands 2 so much and how a game helped me through a very hard time of my life. That video, it ain't funny at all. It's me being open and expressing how a game just helped me so much. So I don't really want to repeat myself. I explained it in that video better than I can in just a paragraph. So go check out that video if you want to know about the full story about my Borderlands 2 experience. The link to that video will be in the description of this video. So yes, Borderlands 2 is my favorite game of all time. And I am almost positive nothing will ever pass it. Even if I find a game that is 1,000 times better in every way, it won't mean as much to me, as Borderlands 2 does. I did want to quickly leave a note about something I said in that video. In that video, I expressed how my parents forced me to play sports in fear of me not having a social life. Now this part, I didn't state in the video. I'm not mad at them at all for forcing me to do that. I actually understand where they were coming from and support them fully with it. Because as a person with borderline ADHD and no physical way of getting exercise, I probably would have sunk into an even deeper depression. And I'm sure my mom seeing me lock myself in a room day by day just depressed her even more and probably made her worry about me. So I can understand why she'd want me to be going out and being social. I love my parents to death. I have amazing parents. I just felt I had to state that because rewatching that video, I realized I didn't say that when I had kind of meant to say that. Okay, let's cheer back up. So that was my top 10 list. It had some obvious ones in there, but also some what? But you could probably tell most of, if not all the games on this list meant a lot to me and still mean a lot to me even now. But yeah, I would love to see your guys' list too. So feel free to leave them in the comments. I love reading through you guys' comments, especially stuff like that. Thanks for watching this long if you made it, man. I really appreciate it. Anyway, thanks guys. See ya.